Hey folks, Doug Blake with Body Design University. Welcome to another Saturday live study for our NASM students. In this video, we are still moving through chapter 4, and today is going to be on effective communication skills. And even before we get started, please keep in mind that when you're going through this material, the goal ultimately is to pass the NASM exam. Okay, NASM has given a lot of information. They put a lot of work into trying to navigate some of these topics so that you can actually use them in the quote real world when you're training people. Okay, so that's really important that you understand this. But for the most part, learning and understanding the information is going to be more important with respect to actually passing their exam. And I'm going to tell you that even before I share my screen, because a lot of this information, when we talk about effective communication, you actually took classes on this. You might, I don't know if you did it in high school, but I know when you went to college, for those of you that went to college, you took communication 101, right? Verbal, nonverbal, yes, probably. Hey, Terry, good to see you. So you already learned this. Like this stuff comes from 60, 70 years ago. What NASM, and that's why I'm saying I don't want you to get too caught up in it, but what NASM has tried to do is to, compress it down and make it relevant to personal training. So when you go through this, please don't look at it and go, I'm going to use all these techniques. That's not how this works. First and foremost, we learn the material enough so that you can pass the exam. If you want to go back and look at that material to quote, learn something in the real world, how to actually use it, sure, I would go to it. But I do that as a preemptive measure to make sure that we don't get so caught up in this that we remember that all we're trying to do is pass the exam, right? So now this part of the chapter NASM lists as lesson 3 in chapter 4, and you guys can see the importance of effective communication. And I think Terry is trying to come in again. Yes, Terry, is that correct? Okay. So guys, when you're going through this, just keep in mind the important parts of the chapter, right? And there's a couple of words here that are really important. The first one is obviously over to the right side. If you've got the textbook, you already know this. You have these side panel terms. And so you do want to memorize, at least know what these are. So empathy is the ability to identify with another person's feelings, attitudes, or thoughts. Empathy is sort of over and against sympathy. What's the difference? Does anybody know what the difference is between empathy and sympathy? Yes? No? You guys can, Mimi,
Isn't
what's the difference?
sympathy isn't sympathy when you are having those same emotions too and you're going through it together? Whereas empathy is just you're feeling for them,
It,
kind of.
um,
I forget.
sympathy, sympathy is more, hang on a second. Sympathy is more, Terry, did I just undo your video? Oh, sympathy does not have the emotive connection. That's the difference. Empathy has an emotive connection. So I feel what you're feeling. So when I empathize with you, that's a lot more, it's a lot more connected than just sympathy. Because I can be sympathetic towards you, but I mean, okay, my sympathies to you for for your house burning down. I don't know what it's like to have my house burned down. So I'm not sure how connected I am to you with your feelings about when your house burned down. Does that make sense? So sympathy does not have that emotive connection. That's why when you have sympathy for somebody, it's because I don't really know. I really don't know what you're going through, person. I don't. I'm being respectful. I'm being respectful when when somebody says that their dad or mom or somebody died. This is a perfect example. When you have a death in the family, I barely know you. I definitely don't know that person who died. So I have sympathy because intellectually, Intellectually, I know that it must be pretty painful when somebody dies in your family. Does that make sense? That's sympathy. So I'm very sympathetic. I'm also very sympathetic when you lose money or when your car breaks down or what. That is the intellectual, non-emotive connection. And we do have sympathy because it is respectful, and we should show sympathy to others in that respect. Empathy is different. Empathy is like you're walking in my shoes, right? Because I know exactly what it feels like to have that happen, and now it just happened to you. Oh man, I really really feel for you. So that's showing empathy. Does that make sense? So in the context of, you know, personal fitness training, so to speak, if you want to say it like this, the the connection is understanding, and because this is dealing with issues related to the trans theoretical model, really, when I empathize with you, I really understand why you don't want to eat well. I really do. Because there have been times when I really don't want to eat well, and I really want to go off and eat really bad. So trust me, I truly empathize. And I also empathize with you not wanting to exercise because when I first started exercising, it hurt a lot. I was sore. It hurt. So I definitely empathize with you when it comes to, the fear of being sore and pain and all this other stuff. Does that make sense? So that's one of the ways we quote empathize with people, and that's why it's an important subject to navigate. And then, of course, there's this word which is also critical when it comes to this communication process. It's just rapport. So it's the relationship. So remember, rapport is a relationship that two people develop. You got that? But it's really one of understanding others, right? Their ideas, and then having respect for one another. Y'all get that? So those two are really probably the most important concepts that you get from this part of this chapter. Have empathy, show empathy, right? And behave in a way that shows that you are empathetic to this client, and then also develop rapport. In fact, one of the other NCCA accredited organizations that we deal with, ACE, this is like a main issue for them. They put it like at the forefront of the training paradigm or coaching paradigm, which is you have to develop rapport first before you do anything else. Well, I'm going to take your money first for sure. Then I'll build rapport. Just I'm being real. I need to get you committed financially first. Then we're going to develop rapport. And that's really what we're looking for when it comes to effective communication. So, what is it? What is rapport? It's just a relationship that you and I have. I respect you. I understand you in a way that allows me to talk to you. And one of the most important things about rapport from a coaching perspective is that the client feels comfortable and safe to confide in you and talk to you about the issues related to their fitness journey that they're on. Does that make sense? We often don't do this, even with our friends and families. We never develop really good rapport because you need to be able to tell me things that you're probably not going to tell anybody else, or even just something minor related to your food. Some people can be very private. Rapport, it sort of allows, if the relationship is built on respect and right, fundamentally respecting each other's ideas, rapport will allow you to get those secrets out of your clients because they ain't telling everybody about their weight losses. But you as their accountability factor, so to speak, who has developed a very strong sense of rapport with them, they will tell you things. I always used to say it when I first started training people. I was like a psychologist. I'm like a therapist. I'm, I mean, I train people, but man, I was there to, I was there to be their therapist. That's what happens. You know that, right? Well, that's with one-on-one training. I'm just going to say that that's a good reason not to do one-on-one training. to be honest with you. That's why you do group training, so you don't get too connected, especially a D-type personality. So I hope that I hope that makes sense. This is like I say, I want you to study to pass the exam, but there are a couple of things in here that are actually pretty helpful when it comes to the communication process. So you can see the bullet points. Remember, we always want to look at bullet points in these chapters. And they gave you some really good ones. Create a safe environment where challenging emotional issues can be discussed. What's a big issue right now with clients, particularly younger clients that come in their late 20s, early 30s? What do you think is a big issue for a lot of those folks today? We talked about it in module 4. At the very end of module 4, I had a lesson specifically on this topic: mental illness. Mental illness. It's a big problem in today's society, and people will literally start to confide in you about their diagnosed illness, the meds they're taking. And by the way, you actually want this. You want this. So this is one of the ways through the development of rapport, right? Um, that you can help people and assist them. So create a safe environment, right? Clear away distractions, cell phones, focus on the client. So this is what you're doing: is you're allowing for effective communication through these things right here. Ask questions, right? Open-ended questions, right? Versus closed-ended questions. Observe non-verbal cues such as body language, and provide, see the word, empathy and validation. Y'all get this? This is real world stuff. So, of course, you learned in fifth grade, ninth grade, communication 101. There's two types of communication: they are nonverbal and verbal. And you'll hear any number of experts say that it's the nonverbal part of how you communicate that really gets the point across, or that really gets people to understand your intentions, things like that. Does that make sense? And so obviously your non-verbal communication skills, both seeing it and demonstrating it, can be very, very important. And I don't need to get into it. You all know this, right? You know people that you're not real comfortable with. Generally, it's because of their non-verbal cues that they're giving off. Yes, right? So there's your little reflective listening. Now, again, remember what we always say: know the words on the side panel and look for your bullet points, right? Because you may get a question on one of these, on one of those topics in the bullet points, and then always look for little pictures and charts and graphs and things like that. So remember this. This is really important. This is the reflective listening sequence. When somebody says something, right, that individual has meaning to what they said, right? It's what the speaker means, right? When I talk to you, I already know what I want you to hear. However, that meaning that I have in my head, I wanted to teach you guys this or have you learn this, that may not come out in the way I say it. You get it? So I may mean to say something. By the way, don't you have folks, haven't you had people say this to you or about you, something like, it's the way you say it, Francette. It's not what you say. Like the way I scrunch up my nose. Terry, you seen that? It's not what you say, Mitzi. It's the way you say it. Right? No? You've never heard nobody's ever said that to you? Right? Um, and then, of course, it's what the listener actually hears. Right? It could be a little different. And then it's what the listener thinks the speaker means. So does everybody see how this works? I think of something, I say something, you hear it, and then you transpose that in your brain. This is why we have ineffective communication quite often. That's not what I meant. Mimi, when I said that, that's not what I meant. And Mimi goes, well, that's what you said. That's how this plays out. Francette, I need you to do 10 reps really hard, okay? Got it? In my mind, I'm like, I really want Francette to throw up on this set of squats after 10 reps. So my definition of hard in my brain is, and Francette goes, got it, Doug. She goes, one, two, eight, oh, nine. And she gets that 10th one and she goes, oh man, how was that? And I'm like, what are you doing? You didn't even, you didn't, I said do it hard. Does that make sense to you guys? This happens all the time. But Doug, you said to do 10 reps really hard. Well, apparently you and I have a different definition of hard. Y'all get that? And so I knew what I was thinking. I said something, you heard it, and then you transposed that in your brain. So you were trying to understand what was going on in my head. Now, of course, we don't have uh, telepathy, so you can't see what's going on in my head. Because Fran said if you had, you would have been vomiting after those 10 reps. You get it? So that's really a grotesque example. I apologize, but it's the only thing I could come up with quickly while I was talking. Okay, so does everybody get this? Reflective listening, right? So what the listener thinks the speaker means, and then you'll probably have to clarify it. In the real world, you use this to sort of make sure that you don't have to deal with misunderstandings by doing what? Make sure that what you say is in line with or is very clear with respect to what you mean to say. Does that make sense? So you have to be self reflective. You personally, when you're communicating something to somebody, you should have already thought through I know what I want. I know what I mean when I say this, but is what I'm saying actually going to be reflective to my client? And that's always a challenge, I guess. But that's as far as I want to go into that. So we have what's known as reflective listening, right? Process of seeking to understand the meaning of the speaker's words and restating the idea back. So let me get this straight, Terry. You're saying that I should dot dot dot. How many of you use that technique? It is very valuable. It's really, really valuable, especially if you're married. Yeah, look at Missy's like, oh yeah, because my husband's a jerk and he just doesn't understand what I'm trying. So reflective listening is very, very valuable in your relationships with others. What's active listening versus passive listening, right? There's a couple of concepts here. Genuine interest. Yeah, that helps. But active listening simply means that you're trying to block out all other distractions and you're trying to get to the meat and potatoes of what the person is saying to you. Active listening can be very, very challenging. Passive listening is easy because that's just the vibrations hitting my tympanic membrane. Active listening means I have to have some thought. I have to have some thought, skin in the game. One of the ways you practice active listening is using the reflective or the replying back to the person for verification of what they said. I always do this with clients. I do it with everybody, to be honest with you, but generally with a client, I'm like, tell me how you feel. Well, I got this is okay. So let me get this straight. Let me see if I got this right. See how I do with the hands, by the way, because I'm from New York. I got to use my hands to talk. So let me get this straight. What you're saying is, you all see how I preempt what I'm going to say? You got to practice that verbiage. Okay, so let me see if I get this straight, Mitzi. Okay, Terry, so hang on a second. If I'm hearing you right, see what I just did? I pulled down all barriers to that individual, and now they actually want me to understand what they meant. So when I back off and I just kind of do this and go, okay, let me see if I get this straight. You want me to, okay, let me see if I understand this correctly. Are you saying that I should, that, you see how I do that? That's, again, I don't know if you guys do that already, good. If you don't, you may want to start practicing it. So that's the active listening. Close-ended questions, of course, are yes and no. They're important. They are important. Are you in pain? Yes. Okay, now I can ask the open-ended question. Where is the pain? Where's the discomfort? Do you feel it right here? Bam, bam. Yes. Perfect. That's a close-ended question, and they're actually very valuable. Of course, open-ended questions require a more thoughtful, progressive response to the question. Yes, simple. So there you go. By the way, here's your classic bullet points that you would be looking at. Ask questions, reflect, summarize. So let me see if I understand what you just said to me. I'm going to summarize what you said. I got it. I'm pretty sure I got it. So, and then this concept of asking permission. So now, as we go through the rest of this, they're simply going to take each one of these bullet points and they're going to expound upon it. Okay. My recommendation is go through each of these other bullet points. How might you go about making this change? Is a good question to ask somebody. What challenges do you now, guys? You know the deal. This is NASM's. These are their questions. You may want to look at these and reformulate them a little bit, but they're just trying to give you examples of what type of questions you could ask individuals. Yes? Please ask questions, lots of questions, right? You want to have as much information and data as you can before you start making decisions with clients. So, accentuate the positive. Yeah, you can read that. That's fine. But all of these right here, collecting summaries, linking summaries, all of those you can look at. I'm not saying you need to memorize this stuff. Just look at it. Make sure you read them and at least understand conceptually what they mean. Okay? Reflecting, summarizing, and then let's go to 4, using affirmations and asking permission. You will notice that all I really did there was show you the written words, but it's all text. So what don't you need to do in general when you get to the text of the NASM textbook? You don't need to read it. They basically summarize it for you, and for the most part, just knowing what they are because they bullet pointed it for you, you will see it in the back of the book anyway in the chapter highlights. So if you want to read it, that's that's your business. But to pass their exam, they're just not going to ask you a lot of questions, if any, on this particular part of chapter 4. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes. Okay. Look, I appreciate you guys coming on board this Saturday. If you got any questions, please let us know. And make sure, if you have not done so, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. All right, guys. So hang on.